Good morning to you all, brothers and sisters. Before going into the subject, I want to speak a few words about a question that is put to me a few minutes before. One of our brothers have asked me how I view the mixing up of the various systems of medicine while conducting the treatment. I said I would declare my answer before all, so that we may have an open discussion of all the views of sensible people. So I will present my viewpoint to you first. And I personally believe that every system has a grain of truth in it, and no system is totally useless, but no system has reached that stage of perfection which can cater to all the needs of cure. So within these two limits we are existing, and we have to accept the supplementation of one system by another. And the desirability of the supplementation is as follows according to me. There are the medicative methods of curing, non-medical methods of healing. For example, diet, meditation, magnetic healing, healing through light, sound, mantram, etc. So let us have all the methods grouped under two headings, and here we have the classical system, homeopathy, etc. And about supplementation, let us not mix up any two medicative methods at a time. That is my personal view. No doubt sometimes the patient requires allopathic treatment or surgery, which in fact doesn't belong to any system of medication. But when the patient is being treated by homeopathy, let him be treated by homeopathy exclusively, and if he is being treated by allopathy, let him be treated by allopathy exclusively, for the simple reason that every system has its own approach to the constitution of the patient, which approach basically differs from the approach of another medicative system. And I sincerely believe that the constitution goes into complications if we treat him simultaneously through two medicative systems. The selection of medicine in homeopathy is unique in itself, and the selection in allopathy has a different basis. The one is having the pathological basis, whereas the other is having a purely physiological and vital basis. That is, in homeopathy we take the healthy constitution as the standard. In allopathy we take the patient's existing condition as the standard. So basically there is a difference which cannot be compromised, and in the system of allopathy the doctor is there to decide the course of treatment, whereas in homeopathy the doctor has no place at all in deciding the medicine. It is the patient who gives the representation of the totality of symptoms, and at best the patient indicates the remedy and the doctor never prescribes the remedy. The doctor takes the indication from the patient and helps the patient in having the remedy. So, there is a lot of difference in the doctor prescribing for the patient and the patient indicating the remedy to the doctor. For such reasons, the medication in its system works in a different direction from that of the other system. So, when the treatment is taking one direction, let there be no cross currents in the direction. Even then, because herbs also are used to stimulate the vital force to healing, and we can make a supplementation of the non-medicative methods. For example, a yogi can give his presence to the patient. A positive psychologist can give his conversation, healing conversation to the patient. A born optimist who is very pleasant can give his vibrations to the patient. The magnets can be used. Light and sound can be used with perfect mastery and skill. It helps a speedy recovery, and in fact, it facilitates the action of the remedy. Sometimes the process is hastened in a desirable way, and sometimes the strain that the patient undergoes while the process of cure is being done is minimized by a supplementation of the non-medicative method. This is my personal view, confirmedly, I have no doubt about it. But still, I keep my mind always open to conviction. Whenever I am convinced against my view, I keep myself ready to follow the new convention. And about the use of herbal remedies, in this context I put forth the homeopathic viewpoint. According to our understanding of homeopathy, we can divide all the substances in nature into two groups: poisons, non-poison. Any substance when introduced into the human constitution, let it be by way of touch or by way of alimentation or inhalation, it has either a poisonous effect or a non-poisonous effect. And we can define poison as something that works detrimental to the vital principle, that which has a shattering effect upon the constitution, which goes a long way in the disintegration of the work that is going on in the constitution. And the next group is the group of substances which do not have such an effect, and we can name good and nutritive food substances under the second heading. These are the substances that are welcomed by the constitution, and one of the vital ways of welcoming is what we call the taste and the appetite. Why we feel the food tasteful? Why we feel like eating when we are having appetite? We should go a little bit deeper into it and study the functions of nature. Nature has given us hunger and thirst, not only for us to enjoy the taste, but the taste also has a pious mission to do. The physical body requires food and water, and there should be something to indicate that the body requires food and water. and nature has produced hunger and thirst. So, we should question ourselves about the phenomena of nature and find their significance and usefulness more and more as we gain experience in life. That's the reason why I said the animals eat when they are hungry only and drink only when they are thirsty. You cannot bring a horse to water and make it drink when there is no necessity of water. But we can make a friend eat because it is our marriage day, or make him drink because it is the marriage of our son. In the human kingdom we transgress because we have a capacity to transgress. But in fact, nature has given us the capacity to think and decide and not to transgress. Because the capacity to think, decide and discriminate is given only to the human kingdom, and it is not given to the animal or the plant kingdom. That's the reason why things are left to our own choice in the human kingdom. But since we too are not perfect in nature, nature has kept indications by way of pain and suffering, so that we may know whenever we transgress. So let us try to understand hunger and thirst also in the same light. All the things that produce appetite to us and all the things that appease our hunger and thirst, they are welcome by the Constitution, and they are what we call foods, and the other group are unwelcome. The Constitution shows bad indications when they are introduced, and when there is some food poisoning, immediately we have indications like nausea or vertigo, or sometimes a vomiting, or sometimes a rise in temperature, or sometimes some perspirations like that. So according to this, we can divide all the substances into two groups, and the first group, when introduced into the Constitution, produce or rouse a reaction, whereas the second group produce action in the Constitution. This is one of the fundamentals of homeopathic logic, on the edifice of which the whole science of homeopathy stands. And why the poisonous substances produce reaction should be carefully explained, not to the homeopathic doctor but to the common man, because the homeopath already knows it and believes it. But unless we have a convincing approach, we cannot convince the common man of the truth. And if we demand the belief of the common man without convincing him, it is rather religious than scientific, and it cannot stand for a long time. Why these substances produce a reaction? It is for the simple fact that the vital force reacts against something undesirable. Yesterday we have explained that matter is moved by force, steered by mind, and when we consider the mind and the vital force put together as one unit, we can scientifically understand the one unit as intelligent force, which we do not meet in the objective plane of the world. Whenever you create a machine, whenever you set up a plant to produce energy or force, for example a dynamo or an electromotor, it needs an intelligence to handle. It cannot work of its own accord. However perfect and self-sufficient you may make the machine, you have to start, and then the machine begins to work, and you have to suggest when to stop. So the A and Z should be with the human being and not the machine. This is what we know in the objective world. So we may not be much familiar of the intelligent energy that is working on the subjective and semi-subjective planes of the human kingdom. So we should make it familiarized to our mind and construct the required steps of logic to understand and make the common man understand of it. And this intelligent energy has not only the automation of the human constitution, but also of an alternation of currents according to the desirability or undesirability from outside. As long as things go desirable, it goes on working in its normal way, and when there is something undesirable, then immediately there is a reaction, a deviation from the normal way of functioning, because it has not only self-preservation but also self-protection. That's why I prefer to call it intelligent energy, because even what we call intelligence, when scientifically analyzed, is nothing but energy on a higher plane. Just as we see water and block of ice on different planes, the substance being the same, they exist in two different states. Similarly, someday or other we have to understand energy and intelligence in the same level, two states of the same existence. That is the existence of the indweller or the living organism. For the time being, we are understanding it as matter, force and mind. But sometime in the 21st century, they may learn to understand it as we understand ice, water and steam. As easy as we understand these things in the 20th century. And also I do hope the manifestations of electricity and magnetism will be understood as the vital force in us after some time. When the same energy is produced by a natural machine, that is a machine produced by nature, we are calling it vital force in homeopathy and the etheric body in the spiritual side. But when we produce the machine, that is when the natural machine produces a secondary or a tertiary machine, then we are calling it electricity or magnetism. So we are on the way to understand the ultimates of scientific concepts. And when the vital force is understood as, when the vital force and mind put together are understood as intelligent energy, automatically there is a reaction in the constitution whenever there is something undesirable introduced. The next step which we have to make the common man understand is that the reaction belongs to the vital force and not the poisonous substance. This makes much difference in the understanding or misunderstanding of the medicines. The understanding of medicines by a doctor who remembers that the reaction belongs only to the constitution is definitely much more scientific than the understanding of the doctor who wrongly remembers that the reaction belongs to the medicinal substance. And this is the basis for us to make the common man understand why antipathy is not desirable as homeopathy. There are two methods of approaching a sick person, two ways of tackling suffering, and the one way is antipathy and the other way is homeopathy. And why Dr. Hahnemann condemned the system of antipathic measures as undesirable? The basis lies here on the fact that the Constitution has a power to react against undesirable things. It has the power to accept that which is desirable and reject that which is not desirable. Then you can ask, why the human mind is accepting something undesirable? It is a vital question which always faces the human being. The answer is, when the water in a container is pure, it is transparent. But when the container is made impure, and if you take water in it to drink, it is clouded, and sometimes it has a smell which the water has not. So the impurity belongs to the container and not the mind. So when matter conditions force, and matter and force condition the mind, we have a container which is not pure, and the mind that is contained in an impure container. And then our thinking is conditioned by the impurity. As a result, everyone has his or her own logic, which differs from the logic of another. No doubt everyone tries to know truth and argue for truth, but everyone has his or her own concept of truth, which carries essentially the zero error of the machine. This is what we call the difference of opinion. Whereas in matters of the facts of nature, there is no room for difference of opinion. If you say this is water, there is no possibility for a difference of opinion. Same is the case with any truth in nature. So, whenever the mind is conditioned by the container, that is matter and put together taken as one unit, they form the container, and the mind with all its layers of consciousness, it is the content, which includes also the indweller in us. But of course the mind is not the indweller, but for medicinal purposes it is enough to take the whole mind as one unit. And then if we take the mind and force as one unit, it forms the unit of intelligent energy, which needs a vehicle on the physical plane and which feeds the vehicle on the vital plane and which knows the needs of the vehicle, and also which feels the responsibility of protecting the vehicle. And when we approach from the bottom side of it, matter and force put together, they form the vehicle of the third aspect, which we call mind, the indweller. And whenever there is something undesirable, the first unit begins to react to protect the second unit. The middle aspect, that is force, is the fulcrum, because it is included in both the aspects. So there is sometimes a confusion in our understanding it, because in one respect it is included with the vehicle, and in another respect it is included with that which is conducting the function. So it has mind in the form of applied mind, and it has matter in the form of applied matter, and this includes the five senses and their functions. Now the whole thing is an intricate mechanism. We are entering into a new dimension of science which awaits the human comprehension in the next century, and also which dominated the human comprehension in the previous ages. For example, the previous Aquarian ages, the records of which we can have from the ancient scriptures, and also the scientific yoga literature. If we go to the psychology given in the yogic textbooks, we can make a better supplementation of this new dimension of science to understand the structure of the five senses and their functions, and the mind working through the five senses as the false I am in us, and the real indweller who shines forth through all these things as the real I am in every one of us. We have to make a supplementation from the psychology of the yogic side, because with due respect, modern psychology is only a psychology of a science of problems without solutions. We have a beautiful analysis of every problem. If I suffer from insomnia, psychology can explain why I am not sleeping on a perfect scientific basis. At the same time, it has no solution to offer. Excuse me if I am wrong. Anyone may correct me, I follow this. And the psychology of the yogic branch of science teaches us much about the senses and their activity, and the mind, which in homeopathy we call the vital and the mental planes. So you can take it as the 3D cinema on a screen. So it is a bit complicated, and now we have the basis to explain to the common man why it is dangerous to introduce a poisonous substance. There is nausea and vertigo, and sometimes sweats and perspiration. All these are considered to be the effects of poison. Now homeopathy teaches us for the first time that these are not the effects of the poison at all. These are the effects of the vital force fighting against the poison. Every one of us are forced to accept that this way of understanding poisons is made possible by us only after the advent of Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, not before that. Before that, we used to believe that poisons produce these effects, and even now it's not the fault of the common man if he believes in the same theory. We the homeopaths have the necessity to make the common man understand the fertility. If at all the poison was to have these effects, it should have affected the dead body also. In the philosophical discourses of the ancient scriptures, it is said that cold and